Excel Training Guide. Genre: Computers and Technology. Target audience: professionals, financial analysts, accountants, and job seekers. Style: practical, tutorial, instructional, visual heavy, action-oriented. Introduction: the 7-day commitment to mastery. Section 0.1. Why Excel remains the analyst's most powerful tool. Section 0.2. Configuring your environment for high-performance work. Section 0.3. How to use this book, the intensive bootcamp approach. Section 0.4. Downloading the real-world datasets and case files. Welcome to your bootcamp. If you are holding this book, you have likely realized that knowing how to open a spreadsheet is not the same as mastering data analysis. In my years of conducting intensive, week-long training sessions, from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., non-stop, I have seen the transformation that happens when professionals commit to deep, focused learning. This book is the crystallization of that high-intensity experience. It is designed for the financial analyst who needs to shave hours off their reporting time, the accountant drowning in month-end reconciliations, and the job seeker who needs to prove they can handle big data on day one. We are not just going to learn formulas, we are going to change the way you think about data. The curriculum ahead is rigorous. It mimics our live, practical sessions where we break for tea and lunch, but otherwise remain glued to the screen, solving real-world problems. By the end of this journey, you will not just be an Excel user, you will be the person everyone else in the office comes to for answers. Figure: high-quality photorealistic illustration of a modern workspace desk, focused on a laptop screen displaying a complex, color-coded Excel dashboard. Warm lighting from a desk lamp, a cup of coffee with steam rising, and a notepad with the handwritten text Day 1 to Mastery. The atmosphere should be focused, professional, and inviting. Section 0.1. Why Excel remains the analyst's most powerful tool. In an era of flashy business intelligence tools, Python scripts, and AI generators, a common question arises: is Excel still relevant? The answer is a resounding yes. In fact, for the vast majority of businesses, Excel is not just relevant, it is the operating system of the financial world. Excel remains the lingua franca of business because of its flexibility. Unlike rigid software packages that force you into a specific workflow, Excel presents you with a blank canvas. This freedom allows an accountant to build a depreciation schedule 1 minute and a financial analyst to model a complex merger the next, all within the same interface. However, this power comes with a responsibility to use it correctly. The expert level we aim for in this book goes beyond knowing where the buttons are. It involves understanding the architecture of data flow, ensuring accuracy in reporting, and creating models that are robust enough to handle the unpredictability of real business scenarios. When you master Excel, you are not just learning software, you are learning how to structure logic. You are gaining the ability to take a chaotic dump of raw numbers and sculpt it into a narrative that drives executive decisions. That is why this tool remains the unrivaled champion of the analyst's toolkit. Section 0.2. Configuring your environment for high-performance work. Before we write a single formula, we must prepare our workspace. In our live training batches, I insist that every participant brings their own laptop. Why? Because you must be comfortable in your own environment. A surgeon does not operate with dull tools, and an analyst should not work with a default, unoptimized interface. High-performance Excel work requires minimizing friction. Every time you have to hunt for a tool in a nested menu, you lose focus and seconds. Over a career, those seconds add up to weeks of lost time. We will start by customizing the Quick Access Toolbar, QAT, and adjusting settings to prioritize calculation speed and data integrity. Optimizing the Ribbon and Quick Access Toolbar. Your first assignment is to locate the commands you use most frequently: paste special, filter, pivot table, and remove duplicates, and move them to your QAT. This puts your most lethal weapons within a single click, regardless of which ribbon tab is currently active. Setting calculation and error checking. By default, Excel tries to help you by calculating automatically and flagging potential errors with little green triangles. For large datasets, these features can slow you down. We will configure Excel to handle large data efficiently, ensuring that the software waits for your command rather than lagging after every entry. Figure, split-screen comparison diagram. Left side shows a standard, cluttered Excel interface with default settings. Right side shows a Pro Analyst setup with a customized quick access toolbar, a minimized ribbon for more screen real estate, and specific option boxes checked for manual calculation and a disable background error checking. Clean, vector style graphic. Section 0.3, How to use this book, the intensive bootcamp approach. This book is structured to replicate the intensity and depth of our 1-week, full-day training program. In our live sessions, we push through fatigue to break through learning plateaus. While you are reading this at your own pace, I encourage you to adopt the bootcamp mindset. Do not skip the basics, even if you feel you are an intermediate user. We often find that self-taught users have Swiss cheese to knowledge, solid in some areas but full of holes in others. We will fill those gaps. The earlier chapters lay the foundation for the advanced automation and modeling techniques that come later. That simulated life structure. We have organized the content into logical days or modules that mirror our 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. schedule. Asterisk the morning session, concepts we introduce the theory and the why behind the tools. Asterisk the afternoon session, application we dive into deep, complex exercises that force you to combine multiple tools. Asterisk the tea break, reflections, brief pauses to consolidate what you have learned and review best practices. For freshers, this approach provides a reasonable pace to digest complex topics. For experienced professionals, it offers a structured path to fill knowledge gaps and discover efficiency hacks you never knew existed. Treat the exercises not as homework, but as client deliverables that are due by end of day. Figure, a visual roadmap timeline styled like a subway map. The starting station is raw data, moving through stations like data cleaning, advanced formulas, pivot tables, and visualization, ending at the destination strategic dashboard. Each station represents a chapter or the days of the training. Section 0.4, Downloading the real-world datasets and case files. You cannot learn to swim by reading a book about water, and you cannot learn Excel by looking at screenshots. This training is strictly hands-on. In our live batches, we do not use toy data like a list of 10 fruit sales. We use large, messy, real-life datasets that reflect the chaos of the actual corporate world. You will be working with data that has duplicates, missing values, and formatting errors, because that is exactly what you will face in your job. Dealing with these imperfections is half the battle. Accessing your training material. Please download the accompanying project files immediately. These files are the exact same ones used in our intensive on-site workshops. They are designed to break if you don't handle them correctly, teaching you resilience and troubleshooting. Navigate to the URL provided in the preface. Download the zip file named excel_bootcamp_materials.zip. Extract the folder to your desktop or documents folder. Open the folder to verify you see subfolders labeled 01_data_cleaning, 02_formulas, 03_pivot_reporting, etc. We have priced this training reasonably to ensure access for everyone, but the value lies in your participation. Open the files. Break them. Fix them. That is the path to expert-level skills. Let's begin day 1. Figure Mind Map, the 7-day commitment to mastery. Why Excel? The universal tool, flexibility versus rigidity, career accelerator, the environment, customize QAT, optimize settings, own your workspace, the approach, bootcamp mindset, theory plus application, real-world chaos, the materials, no toy data, messy real inputs, hands-on files. Day 1, laying the groundwork for high-speed analysis. Section C. Section 1.1, navigating the ribbon and interface without the mouse. Section 1.2, essential keyboard shortcuts for efficiency and speed. Section 1.3, understanding cell referencing, relative, absolute, and mixed. Section 1.4, formatting for finance, custom numbers, dates, and currencies. Section 1.5, managing worksheets and large workbooks effectively. It is 10 a.m. on Monday morning. In our live sessions, this is the moment the room quiets down, laptops open, and the realization sets in: we have a mountain of work to do, and the only way to the summit is efficiency. If you are serious about becoming a financial analyst or a top-tier accountant, you cannot afford to be slow. Speed in Excel isn't about typing fast, it's about thinking fast and having your hands keep up with your brain. The biggest bottleneck between your thoughts and the spreadsheet is usually the mouse. Today, we are going to break that dependency. We are building the foundation for the rest of the week. Do not skip this. I have seen seasoned professionals struggle with advanced modeling simply because they wasted mental energy navigating the grid inefficiently. By the end of this chapter, you will navigate your data with the precision of a pilot in a cockpit. Section 1.1: Navigating the ribbon and interface without the mouse. The mouse is a blunt instrument. It is great for browsing the web, but terrible for data manipulation. Every time you lift your hand from the keyboard to grab the mouse, locate the cursor, click a tab, and click a button, you lose microseconds that compound into hours over a career. The secret to mouse-free navigation lies in the Alt key. Press it once, release it, and look at your screen. You will see small letters, key tips, appear over the ribbon tabs. This is your map. Figure a high-contrast, close-up screenshot of the Excel ribbon interface with the Alt key pressed. Key tips, letters like F, H, N, P, are highlighted in bright yellow boxes over the tabs. The background is slightly dimmed to emphasize the ribbon overlay. Cinematic lighting focuses on the Home tab letter H dot. To access the Home tab, you press H suddenly. Every command inside that tab gets its own letter combination. Want to bold a cell? That's one. Want to wrap text? That's W. You don't need to memorize all of them today. You just need to learn the sequence for the tools you use most. If you are an accountant, you probably insert rows constantly. The sequence is Alt, H, Home, I, Insert, R, Rows. Try it now. Do not touch the mouse. Navigate to the Data tab using Alt, A. Look at the options available to you. This Alt sequence method turns a visual hunt and peck exercise into a rapid-fire muscle memory action. Section 1.2: Essential keyboard shortcuts for efficiency and speed. While the Alt key handles the menu, the Control key dominates the grid. Large datasets are intimidating if you are scrolling manually. I once watched a junior analyst scroll through 50,000 rows using the scroll wheel. It took him nearly a minute. We fixed that in 10 seconds. The combination of Control plus arrow keys is your teleportation device. It jumps the cursor to the edge of your data region. If you are at the top of a column and press Control plus down arrow, you land on the last populated cell instantly. To select data rather than just move through it, we add the Shift key. Control plus Shift plus arrow allows you to highlight massive blocks of data in a split second. This is critical when you need to copy a formula down 10,000 rows. Here are the non-negotiables. These are the shortcuts that, if missing from your repertoire, will flag you as a novice in any investment bank or accounting firm. Action shortcut, Windows, context. Practice this until your fingers find the keys without your eyes leaving the screen. When you are analyzing a variance report under a deadline, you do not have time to look at your keyboard. Figure, a dynamic, vector-style illustration of a keyboard with heat maps styling. The Control, Shift, and arrow keys are glowing red-orange indicating high usage. Ghosted hand positions show the pinky on Control anchor position. Arrows illustrate the movement logic on a grid background. Section 1.3: Understanding cell referencing, relative, absolute, and mixed. If shortcuts are the engine, cell referencing is the steering wheel. Get this wrong, and your financial model crashes. Understanding how Excel reads the formula position is the difference between a dynamic model and a broken spreadsheet full of #ref. Errors. By default, references are relative. If you write equals A1 plus B1 in cell C1 and copy it down to C2, Excel assumes you want to move the logic down with you. It changes to equals A2 plus B2. It relates to where you are. Absolute referencing acts as an anchor. We use the $$ to lock a reference. If you are calculating tax for 1,000 items based on a single tax rate in cell G1, you cannot let that reference move. You lock it as $G$1. To toggle these quickly, we use the F for key while editing the formula. Pressing it once gives you absolute $A$1. However, the mark of a true expert is mixed referencing. This is where you lock only the row, $1, or only the column, $1. Imagine a multiplication table or a sensitivity analysis matrix. You need the formula to slide sideways across columns but stay fixed on a row header. Figure, a conceptual 3D diagram showing a spreadsheet grid. An anchor icon creates a chain to a specific cell, absolute. A sliding rail mechanism allows a reference to move only horizontally, mixed row locked, or vertically, mixed column locked. Visual cues like $signs act as the locking pins. Think of the $sign as a padlock placed immediately before the thing you want to freeze. If the $, is before the letter, the column is frozen. If it is before the number, the row is frozen. Mastering mixed references allows you to write one formula in the top left corner of a table and copy it to the entire grid without editing. Section 1.4 Formatting for Finance, Custom Numbers, Dates, and Currencies. In the professional world, accuracy is only half the battle, readability is the other half. If an executive cannot scan your numbers and immediately grasp the magnitude, your analysis has failed. Default Excel formatting is rarely sufficient for finance. We never manually type $signs or commas. We use custom number formatting. Press Ctrl+1 to open the Format Cells dialog. Navigate to the Custom category. A standard financial format aligns positive numbers, puts negative numbers in parentheses, often in red, and replaces zeros with a dash. This makes lists of data much easier to scan because the zeros don't clutter the view. Here is the anatomy of a custom format string, positive format, negative format, zero format, text format. For professional reports, I recommend using this code. Underscore, asterisk hash 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 0 underscore, underscore, asterisk, hash 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 0 underscore, asterisk the dash. This ensures that your numbers line up perfectly on the right-hand side, regardless of whether they have parentheses or not. It creates a clean gutter of white space on the right margin. Dates are another pain point. Excel treats dates as serial numbers. If you see 4567 instead of a date, it's just a formatting issue. I encourage you to use ISO standards, YYYYMMDD, or clear notations like the 12th of December, 24 to avoid international confusion between months and days. Figure, split screen comparison. Left side, messy data with unaligned numbers, inconsistent decimals, and confusing dates. Right side, professional finance to style with perfect alignment, parentheses for negatives, dashes for zeros, and consistent fonts. A magnifying glass highlights the Custom E tab in the Format Cells dialog. Section 1.5 Managing Worksheets and Large Workbooks Effectively. As we conclude Day 1, let's talk about organization. Real-life data is messy. You will often deal with workbooks containing 20, 30, or 50 tabs. Navigating this via the mouse tab scroller is agonizing. Right-click the small arrows in the bottom left corner of the Excel window, to the left of the first sheet tab. This brings up a vertical list of all sheets. You can jump directly to any sheet from here. More importantly, you can work on multiple sheets simultaneously. If you have 12 sheets representing 12 months, and you need to format cell A1 on all of them, do not do it 12 times. Click the first sheet, hold Shift, and click the last sheet. You have now grouped the worksheets. Whatever you type, format, or delete on the active sheet happens to all grouped sheets instantly. Warning, this is a double-edged sword. I have seen people forget they were grouped and accidentally delete data across an entire year's worth of reports. Always look at the top of your Excel window. If it says, Group, ungroup immediately after your task by right-clicking a tab and selecting Ungroup Sheets. We also need to view data effectively. Use Alt, W, F to freeze panes. This keeps your headers visible as you scroll. For comparing two different spots in the same workbook, use View, a new window. This opens a second view of the same file, allowing you to put Sheet 1 on the left monitor and Sheet 50 on the right. Today was about removing friction. You learn to bypass the mouse, navigate at the speed of thought, anchor your formulas, and present data like a pro. Tomorrow, we take off the training wheels and dive into the logic that drives analysis. Figure Mind Map Day 1, High-Speed Foundation, Root, Day 1 High-Speed Analysis, Branch, Interface Navigation, Node, Alt Key System, Node, Ribbon Key Tips, Node, Quick Access Toolbar, Branch, Keyboard Mastery, Node, Control plus Arrow, Jump, Node, Control plus Shift plus Arrow, Select, Node, F2, Edit Mode, Node, Control plus 1, Format, Branch, Cell Referencing, Node, Relative, A1, Node, Absolute, $A$1, Node, Mixed $1 Australian dollar or $1 Australian dollar, Node, F for Toggle, Branch, Pro Formatting, Node, Custom Codes. Node, Alignment and Spacing, Node, Handling Zeros and Negatives, Branch, Workbook Management, Node, Grouping Sheets, Node, Freeze Panes, Node, New Window View. Day 2, Data Hygiene and Preparation Techniques. Sections Section 2.1, Diagnosing Dirty Data, Common Issues in Exported Reports. Section 2.2, Cleaning Text Strings Using Trim, Clean, and Proper. Section 2.3, Parsing Information with Text to Columns and Flash Filler. Section 2.4, Intelligent Sorting and Advanced Filtering Methods. Section 2.5, Identifying and Removing Duplicates Without Losing Critical Info. It is Tuesday morning. Welcome back to the lab. Yesterday, we stripped away your reliance on the mouse and built the muscle memory for speed. But as we settle in for our second 10-hour sprint, we have to face a hard truth about financial analysis and accounting. Being fast is dangerous if your data is wrong. There is nothing worse than executing a lightning-fast pivot table, only to present it to a CFO and realize your totals are off by millions because Excel didn't recognize 1,000, with a leading space, as a number. In the industry, we often say that 80% of an analyst's time is spent cleaning data, and only 20% is spent analyzing it. Today, our goal is to invert that ratio. We are going to take the messy, ugly exports from SAP, Oracle, or Tally, and scrub them until they shine. We are moving from data janitors to data architects. 2.1 Diagnosing Dirty Data, Common Issues in Exported Reports. Before we start scrubbing, we must diagnose the patient. In my training sessions, I hand out a dataset that looks clean at first glance. It usually takes about 5 minutes before hands shoot up and someone says, "My VLOOKUP isn't working," or "Why isn't this column summing up?" The culprits are almost always invisible. ERP systems are notorious for exporting data with ghosts, non-printing characters, leading spaces, or numbers formatted as text. If you don't spot these immediately, you will waste hours debugging formulas that are actually written correctly. One of the most frequent offenders is the text stored as number. You spot this by looking for a small green triangle in the top left corner of a cell. However, do not rely on visual cues alone. Figure a high-resolution, close-up screenshot graphic of an Excel spreadsheet focusing on a column of numbers. Some cells have the small green error triangle in the corner. A magnifying glass graphic is superimposed over one cell, revealing hidden ghost characters like non-breaking spaces, represented as dots, and leading spaces before the number. The style is clean, modern, and educational. We also need to look for consistency. Are dates written as DDLMMYYYY in row 1 but MMDDYYYY in row 50? Is New York sometimes entered as NY or GEN? York? To quickly diagnose data types without checking every cell, I recommend using the Filter drop-down menu. If you filter a column of dates and you see individual dates listed at the bottom instead of them being grouped by year and month, Excel is reading them as text. That is your red flag. 2.2 Cleaning text strings using trim, clean, and proper. Now that we have identified the dirt, let's grab the soap. The three most essential functions for text hygiene are trim, clean, and proper. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen an accountant use find and replace to remove spaces, only to accidentally destroy sentences by merging words together. Trim is smarter than that. It removes leading and trailing spaces but leaves a single space between words. Clean is the fumigator. It removes non-printable characters, the weird line breaks or system codes that come along for the ride when you copy data from a PDF or a website. Here is the workflow we use in our live exercises. We rarely use these functions in isolation. We nest them to do all the work in one pass. Equals proper, trim, clean, A2. Let's break down what is happening in this formula. 1. Clean strips out the unreadable computer garbage. 2. Trim takes that result and shaves off extra spaces. 3. Proper capitalizes the first letter of each word, turning John Doe into John Doe. This combination is a lifesaver for client lists or vendor master files. Instead of manually fixing capitalization for 5,000 rows, you write this once, double-click the fill handle, and you are done. 2.3 Parsing information with text to columns and flash fill. Sometimes the problem isn't that the data is dirty, it's that it is stuck together. You might get a report where the full name column contains Smith, John, ID 9982. To analyze this, you need the last name, first name, and ID in separate columns. We have two main tools for this, the old reliable, text to columns, and the magician, flash fill. Text to columns is strictly logical. It cuts data based on a specific delimiter, like a comma or a hyphen. It is robust and predictable. If your data structure is identical in every row, this is your best friend. However, real life is rarely consistent. That is where flash fill, Ctrl+E, comes in. Introduced in Excel 2013, this tool uses machine learning to guess patterns. Figure, a split-screen comparison diagram. On the left, a mechanical gear system labeled text to columns separates a data block using rigid vertical lines, delimiters. On the right, a glowing digital wand labeled a flash fill detects a pattern from a user's example entry and auto-completes the rest of the column. The visual style is sleek, combining technical schematics with a touch of digital magic. In class, I will have you type the desired output in the column next to your data. For example, if cell A2 is Smith, John, ID 9982, you type 9982 in cell B2. Then, you move to B3 and press Ctrl+E. Excel looks at what you did, finds the pattern, and fills the rest. A word of caution, flash fill is static. If the original data in column A changes tomorrow, column B will not update automatically. Use flash fill for one-time cleanups. Use formulas like left, right, mid, find if you need a dynamic model that updates with new data dumps. 2. For intelligent sorting and advanced filtering methods. Sorting and filtering are not just for organizing, they are analytical tools. Most people only know how to sort AZ or largest to smallest. But as a financial analyst, you often need to sort by importance, not alphabet. Imagine you are closing the month and need to prioritize reviewing specific high-risk accounts. You can create a custom sort order. Instead of sorting departments alphabetically, you can tell Excel to sort in this order: revenue, COGS, OPEX, tax. This forces the P&L structure to appear logically, rather than putting COGS before revenue just because C comes before R. Furthermore, we can sort by color. During our auditing exercises, I often tell students to highlight suspicious transactions in yellow. Later, we can sort the dataset to bring all yellow rows to the top. When it comes to filtering, stop scrolling through the checkboxes. Use wildcards. The asterisk represents any number of characters. The question mark represents exactly one character. If you filter for *west, Excel will find northwest, southwest, and midwest. If you filter for 2024, you can find specific invoice codes. Mastering wildcards allows you to slice through massive ledgers to find the exact needle in the haystack. 2.5 Identifying and removing duplicates without losing critical info. We end the day with a destructive action. Removing duplicates is powerful, but it is the equivalent of using a shredder. Once that data is gone, it is gone. In finance, duplicate is a tricky word. Is a row a duplicate because the invoice ID is the same? Or is it only a duplicate if the invoice ID, date, and amount are identical? Before you click Remove Duplicates on the Data tab, you must select the correct combination of columns that define uniqueness. If you only select last name, you might accidentally delete a different person who just happens to share a surname. My preferred method for nervous analysts is to identify them first without deleting. We use conditional formatting for this. 1. Select the columns in question. 2. Home conditional formatting. A highlight cells rules, duplicate values. Figure A. Detailed UI mockup of the Excel remove duplicates dialog box floating over a dataset. The dialog box shows checkboxes for date, invoice hash, and amount. The background spreadsheet has certain rows highlighted in light red indicating potential duplicates. A caution icon or yield sign is subtly integrated into the composition to emphasize care. This highlights the issues in red. You can then visually verify them. Once you are 100% sure, you can use the Remove Duplicates tool. Pro tip: always, and I mean always, copy your raw data to a separate original_data sheet before you perform this operation. In the high-pressure environment of a live deal or a month-end close, having a backup is the only thing standing between you and a panic attack. We have spent day 2 getting our hands dirty so our models can stay clean. You now possess the tools to take any jagged, messy export and smooth it into a dataset ready for serious analysis. Go get some rest. Tomorrow, we start building logic with advanced formulas. Figure mind map. Day 2, data hygiene, root, data hygiene, diagnosis, look for ghosts, check data types, filter scan, text cleaning, trim, spaces, clean, non-printing, proper, capitalization, nested formulas, parsing, text to columns, delimiters, flash fill, pattern rec, static, sorting and filtering, custom lists, sort by color, wildcards, asterisk. Duplicates, define uniqueness, conditional formatting first, destructive warning. Day 3, mastering logic and lookup functions. Section 3.1, building decision-making formulas with IF and OR. Section 3.2, retrieving data across sheets with VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. Section 3.3, the modern standard, leveraging XLOOKUP for dynamic arrays. Section 3.4, handling calculation errors gracefully with IFERA. Section 3.5, nesting functions to solve complex business problems. It is Wednesday morning, the midpoint of our intensive week. By now, the rhythm of the training room has shifted. The frantic clicking from day 1 has smoothed into a steady, confident hum. Your data is clean, your shortcuts are memorized, but today is where the real magic begins. Today, we stop treating Excel as a simple calculator or a storage bin. We are going to teach the spreadsheet how to think. In the world of finance and analysis, your value isn't defined by how much data you can type, but by how well you can make that data talk to other datasets. We are entering the domain of logic and lookups. This is the difference between an analyst who spends the weekend manually cross-referencing invoices and one who finishes the task before lunch on Friday. We will build formulas that make decisions and fetch information automatically. Prepare yourself, because this is the day your spreadsheets become dynamic. We are going to turn static grids into responsive models that react to changes in real time. Let's dive in. Section 3.1, building decision-making formulas with IF and OR. The core of any financial model or automated report is the ability to say, if this happens, do that, otherwise, do this. The IF function is the gatekeeper of logic in Excel. It allows your data to react to specific criteria without manual intervention. Think of the IF statement as a fork in the road. You give Excel a test. If the test is passed, true, the data goes down one path. If the test is failed, false, it goes down the other. The basic IF statement. Let's look at a classic scenario, sales commissions. You have a list of sales representatives, and anyone who sold more than $100,000 gets a 5% bonus. Everyone else gets 0%. In cell C2, assuming sales are in B2, the syntax looks like this. Equals if B2 100000, B2 asterisk 0.050. The logic is straightforward. First, the logical test B2 100000. Second, the value if true B2 asterisk 0.05. Third, the value if false 0. If you omit the third argument, Excel will return the word false, which looks unprofessional in a report. Adding complexity with an and or. Real life is rarely as simple as a single condition. Often, an analyst needs to check multiple criteria. For example, to get that bonus, perhaps the rep must sell over $100,000 and maintain a customer satisfaction score above 90%. We nest the and function inside the logical test of the IF statement. Both conditions inside the and brackets must be true for the bonus to calculate. Equals if, and B2 100000, C2 90, B2 asterisk 0.050. Conversely, use OR if satisfying just one of several conditions is enough. If a rep gets a bonus for high sales OR for bringing in 5 new clients, the formula adapts easily. Mastering these logical operators is essential for building flexible financial models. Section 3.2, Retrieving data across sheets with VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. Figure, extra detailed AI-ready prompt for AI-generated diagram showing a decision tree flowchart overlaid on an Excel grid. The root node asks sales greater than $100,000. That yes branch leads to a node calculate 5%, while the no branch leads to $0. A second layer shows a complex gate with and logic combining sales and satisfaction score. The style should be clean, isometric corporate vector art with blue and green accent colors, illustrating the flow of logic. Now that we can make decisions, we need to retrieve data. In every training session I conduct, VLOOKUP is the function everyone asks about first. Despite newer tools, it remains the lingua franca of legacy spreadsheets. You will encounter it in every company you work for. VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup. It is designed to take a unique identifier, like an invoice ID or employee code, look for it in the first column of a table, and return information from a column to the right. The mechanics of VLOOKUP. Imagine you have a sales log with product IDs, but you need the product name and price, which live on a separate master price list sheet. Instead of copy-pasting, we use VLOOKUP. The syntax requires for arguments, 1. Lookup value, what ID are you looking for? 2. Table array, where is the data stored? 3. Col index num, which column number holds the answer? 4. Range lookup, do you want an exact match? Almost always, yes. Equals VLOOKUP, A2, price list, $A, $1, C, $100, 2, 0. That exact match trap. I cannot stress this enough, always use 0, or false, for the fourth argument when looking up IDs or names. If you leave it blank or use 1, Excel assumes your data is sorted and looks for the closest match. In accounting, close is not good enough, it is an audit failure waiting to happen. The limitations. VLOOKUP is powerful, but it has a major weakness, it can only look to the right. If your ID is in column C, it cannot retrieve data from column A. Additionally, if you insert a column in your source data, your column index number creates a reference error. This fragility is why experienced analysts are moving toward modern alternatives. Figure, extra detailed AI-ready prompt for AI-generated diagram showing the mechanical action of VLOOKUP. Visual representation of an eye scanning down a vertical column of blue ID numbers, stopping at a specific ID, and then shooting a laser beam horizontally to the right to grab a value from a yellow column. The background is a faint spreadsheet grid. High contrast, instructional graphic style. Section 3.3, the modern standard, leveraging XLOOKUP for dynamic arrays. If VLOOKUP is a reliable sedan, XLOOKUP is a Tesla. Introduced recently, it fixes every frustration we have had with lookups for the past 30 years. If you are using Excel 2021 or Office 365, this should be your default tool. XLOOKUP does not care if the return column is to the left or right. It does not break when you insert columns. Most importantly, it defaults to an exact match, saving you from the dangerous closest match errors. Constructing the XLOOKUP. The syntax separates the lookup column from the return column. This makes it intuitive and robust. Equals XLOOKUP, lookup underscore value, lookup underscore array, return underscore array. Example. Equals XLOOKUP, A2, price list, A, price list, CC. Notice there is no column counting. You simply select the column with the IDs and the column with the prices. If the price column moves, the formula adjusts automatically. Dynamic array capabilities. XLOOKUP also leverages Excel's dynamic array engine. You can return multiple columns at once. If you select multiple columns for the return underscore array, the result will spill into adjacent cells, populating product name, category, and price in a single formula. This drastically reduces file size and calculation time for large financial models. Section 3.4, handling calculation errors gracefully with IFERA. Nothing ruins a professional dashboard faster than a sea of #n, a, #div0, or #value. Errors. As an analyst, you know that sometimes data is missing legitimately. Perhaps a new product hasn't been priced yet, or a division has zero revenue, causing a division error. Leaving raw Excel errors visible implies you didn't finish the job. It distracts the executive reading the report. We handle this with IFERA. Wrapping your logic. The IFERA function acts as a safety net. You wrap it around your existing formula. If the formula works, Excel shows the result. If the formula errors out, Excel displays a value you specify. Instead of a broken lookups, we can display not found or simply a dash. Equals IFERA, VLOOKUP, A2, table 1 and 2, 0, check ID. For mathematical operations, this is crucial. If you are calculating year-over-year growth and last year's revenue was 0, Excel will give you a divide by 0 error. Equals IFERA, current year, prior year, 0. By wrapping the calculation, you tell the story you want to tell, that there was 0% growth or no applicable data, rather than showing a broken calculation. It turns a technical glitch into a clean, readable piece of information. Section 3.5, nesting functions to solve complex business problems. We have learned the individual tools. Now, let's combine them. In the real world, business logic is rarely linear. You will often need to look up a value, check if it meets a condition, and then perform a calculation, all in one cell. This is called nesting. It involves placing one function inside another as an argument. Think of it like Russian nesting dolls. A real-world scenario. Imagine you are calculating shipping costs. 1. You need to look up the product weight using XLOOKUP. 2. If the weight is over 50 kilograms, the cost is $100. 3. If it is under 50 kilograms, the cost is $20. 4. If the product ID isn't found, return invalid code. We build this from the inside out. First, the lookup. XLOOKUP, A2, products, weights. Next, wrap it in the logic. IF, XLOOKUP, A2, products, weights, greater than 50, 100, 20. Finally, handle the errors. Equals IFERA, IF, XLOOKUP, A2, products, weights, greater than 50, 100, 20, invalid code. The strategy for nesting. When you are in the training room with me, I always advise writing the inner formula first in a separate cell to ensure it works. Once verified, copy the text, without the equal sign, and paste it into the main formula. Nesting requires patience and attention to parentheses. But once you master this, there is almost no business question you cannot answer with a single, powerful formula. Figure, extra detailed AI-ready prompt for AI-generated diagram showing a formula anatomy or breakdown. A long complex nested formula, if plus and plus VLOOKUP, is displayed in the center. Colored brackets and connecting lines break the formula into logical chunks labeled logic test, lookup engine, and error handler. The visual style should look like an engineering blueprint or a medical anatomy poster, emphasizing structure and hierarchy. Conclusion. Take a deep breath. We have covered a significant amount of ground today. You started the morning with static data, and you are leaving with the ability to build responsive, intelligent models. The functions we mastered today, if, VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, and IFERA, are the workhorses of the industry. They are the tools that will allow you to automate the boring parts of your job so you can focus on the analysis. Tonight, rest well. Tomorrow, we take this clean, logical data and learn how to present it. We will dive into the world of pivot tables and reporting. Great work today. Figure Mind Map Day 3, Logic and Lookup Mastery, Root, Day 3, Logic and Lookups, Node, Decision Making, Subnode, if function, Detail, True, False Paths, Subnode, Logical Operators, Detail, and All True, Detail, OR, Any True, Node, Retrieving Data, Subnode, VLOOKUP, Detail, Vertical Scan, Detail, Exact Match 0, Detail, Right Look Only, Subnode, XLOOKUP, Detail, Modern Standard, Detail, Bidirectional, Detail, Dynamic Arrays, Node, Error Handling, Subnode, IFERA, Detail, Polishing Reports. Detail, Handling #NA, Detail, Zero Division Safety, Node, Advanced Techniques, Subnode, Nesting, Detail, Combining Functions, Detail, Inside-Out Strategy. Day 4, Visual Storytelling and Conditional Logic. Sections is Section 4.1, Visualizing Trends Instantly with Conditional Formatting. Section 4.2, Selecting the right chart type for financial narratives. Section 4.3, Customizing charts for professional presentations and PDF reports. Section 4.4, Using sparklines to embed trends directly into data tables. Section 4.5, Creating dynamic charts that update automatically. It is Thursday morning. The air in the training room feels different today. We have spent 3 days sprinting through shortcuts, scrubbing dirty data, and building complex logic formulas. Your spreadsheets now possess intelligence, but they are likely still walls of gray numbers. Today, we shift gears from calculation to communication. In the corporate world, a correct number that no one understands is effectively a wrong number. I have seen brilliant financial models ignored by CFOs simply because the visual presentation was cluttered or confusing. We are going to turn you into a visual storyteller. This isn't about making things pretty, it is about directing the eye to what matters. By 7 p.m. tonight, you will know how to make your data scream its insights without you saying a word. Let's open our laptops. It is time to make your data speak. Section 4.1, Visualizing Trends Instantly with Conditional Formatting. Imagine presenting a variance report with 500 rows to a manager. If you expect them to read every line to find the risks, you are wasting their time. Your job as an analyst is to practice management by exception. Conditional formatting is your primary tool for this. It allows Excel to automatically highlight data points that meet specific criteria, instantly separating the signal from the noise. We are going to move beyond the basic highlight duplicates and use logic-driven formatting. Figure, extra detailed AI-ready prompt for AI-generated diagram showing a split-screen comparison of a financial variance report. The left side is a standard black and white grid of numbers, looking dense and unreadable. The right side shows the same data with a heat map applied. Negative variances are shaded in gradient red, positive in gradient green, and neutral numbers are white. A magnifying glass graphic hovers over a deep red cell labeled -15%, symbolizing instant error detection. The lighting is clean and professional, focusing on the contrast between the dull list and the illuminated insights. Creating heat maps for variance analysis. In financial analysis, context is everything. A $5,000 variance might be huge for a travel budget but a rounding error for revenue. We use color scales, heat maps, to visualize the magnitude of these numbers relative to the rest of the data set. To apply a heat map, 1. Select your column of variance percentages. 2. Go to Home, Conditional Formatting or Color Scales. 3. Choose the red-white-green scale, red for negatives, green for positives. However, standard rules often fail when you have outliers. If one value is plus 500%, it will wash out the color differences for the rest of your data. We need to cap the logic. Using formulas to highlight entire rows. The mark of a pro is highlighting the entire row based on a single cell's value. This makes the report readable across wide tables. Let's say we want to highlight any row where the status column, column E, says overdue. We use a formula-based rule for this. Note the $ placement carefully, it locks the column but allows the row to move. Equals $E2 equals overdue. When applying this, select your entire data table, excluding headers. This small tweak changes a spreadsheet from a data dump into a dashboard that acts as an early warning system. Section 4.2, Selecting the right chart type for financial narratives. I have a strict rule in my training sessions: friends don't let friends use 3D pie charts. In finance, we are comparing lengths and positions, not estimating angles of a sliced pie. Choosing the wrong chart distorts the truth. If you are showing a trend over time, you need a line chart. If you are comparing categories, like revenue by department, you need a bar or column chart. But for accountants and analysts, the most critical tool is the waterfall chart. The waterfall chart, explaining the why. A waterfall chart, often called a bridge, is essential for explaining how you got from point A to point B. For example, bridging the gap between last year's EBITDA and this year's EBITDA. It visually adds the gains and subtracts the losses to show the journey. Figure, extra detailed AI-ready prompt for AI-generated diagram showing a specialized financial waterfall chart on a presentation slide. The chart bridges 2023 net income on the left to 2024 net income on the right. Floating bars between them represent positive factors, green, labeled price increase, volume growth, and negative factors, red, labeled COGS inflation, FX headwinds. The chart is minimalist, using a corporate blue and gray color palette, emphasizing the flow of value. The background suggests a high-stakes boardroom projection screen. Prior to Excel 2016, we had to manipulate stacked column charts to fake this. Now, it is a native chart type. Select your data, categories in one column, movements in the next. Insert waterfall chart. Critical step, you must set the total columns, the start and end points, as totals. Double-click the specific bar, right-click, and select Set as Total. This chart alone can save you 20 minutes of explaining variances in a board meeting. It visualizes the math of your business narrative. Section 4.3, Customizing charts for professional presentations and PDF reports. Default Excel charts look like default Excel charts. They have too much for chart junk, unnecessary grid lines, redundant legends, and distracting borders. To look professional, you must embrace minimalism. In our session today, we are stripping charts down to their essence. This is known as maximizing the data-to-ink ratio. Every pixel on that chart should tell the viewer something new. If it doesn't, delete it. The cleanup routine. Here is the checklist I require my trainees to follow before pasting any chart into a PowerPoint or PDF. Remove the border, click the chart edge format to shape outline, no outline. This blends the chart into the document. Delete grid lines unless you need precise readings. Horizontal lines create visual cage bars. Click and delete them. Direct labeling. Instead of a legend on the side that forces the eye to ping-pong back and forth, label the data series directly on the chart lines. Handling brand colors. If your company logo is navy blue and gold, do not submit a report using default Excel blue and orange. It looks lazy. We will create a custom theme. Go to Page Layout, Colors, Customize Colors. Set your accent 1 through accent 6 to your corporate palette. This ensures that every chart you create for the rest of the week automatically complies with your company's branding. It is a subtle detail that signals executive presence. Section 4.4 Using sparklines to embed trends directly into data tables. Sometimes you do not have space for a full chart. You have a dense table of sales data by region, and you want to show the 12-month trend without creating 50 separate graphs. Enter sparklines. Sparklines are word-sized graphics. They live inside a single cell. They are perfect for dashboards where screen real estate is expensive. To insert them, 1. Select the empty cell where you want the trend. 2. Go to Insert Sparklines Align. 3. Select the data range, the 12 months of data for that row. Figure, extra detailed AI-ready prompt for AI-generated diagram showing a close-up macro view of a financial data table. The focus is on a column labeled 12-month trend. Inside the cells of this column are sparklines, tiny, jagged line graphs illustrating data volatility. The surrounding columns show standard numbers, revenue, YTD. A user's cursor is highlighting the high point marker feature, causing a small red dot to appear at the peak of the tiny sparkline graph. The image conveys high-density information in a compact space. Enhancing sparklines. A line in a box is useful, but we can make it smarter. Once your sparkline is created, look at the Sparkline tab in the ribbon. Check the box for high point and low point. Now, Excel automatically places a dot on the highest and lowest values in that tiny trend line. At a glance, a manager can see if the trend is crashing or if the peak was recent. It adds a layer of intelligence to a standard table. Section 4.5 Creating dynamic charts that update automatically. The only thing worse than building a chart is rebuilding it every month when new data arrives. We are going to automate this. A dynamic chart automatically expands its range when you paste new data at the bottom of your list. We achieve this using Excel tables, Ctrl+T, or named ranges with the offset function. We will focus on the table method as it is more robust for beginners, but I will show you the offset logic for those using legacy models. The table method. Convert your source data range into a table, Ctrl+T. Build your chart based on this table. When you add October's data below September, the table expands automatically. Because the chart is linked to the table object, not the specific cell addresses, the chart updates instantly. The offset method, advanced. For scenarios where tables aren't an option, we define a name in the name manager using a formula that counts the rows. Equals offset, sheet 1, $A$100 counter, sheet 1, $A$1. This formula tells Excel, start at A1, and go down as many rows as there is data. By using this named range as your chart series, your visuals become alive. You paste data, the chart updates. You go home on time. We have now transformed your raw calculation ability into a visual communication toolkit. You are no longer just an analyst, you are a publisher of insights. Tomorrow, on day 5, we will take these dashboards and learn how to protect them, share them, and automate the workflow with macros. But for now, look at your screen. That isn't just a spreadsheet anymore. It's a story. Figure mind map day 4, visual storytelling and logic, conditional formatting, heat maps, data bars, formula-based rules, highlighting rows, chart selection, financial narratives, waterfall charts, bridge analysis, avoid pie charts, customization, clean design, remove grid lines, direct labeling, brand alignment, spark lines, micro charts, high-low markers, dashboarding, dynamic charts, Excel tables, Ctrl+T, offset function, automation. Day 5, the Analyst's Powerhouse, Pivot Tables and Slicers. Sections E. Section 5.1, Structuring Source Data for Optimal Pivot Table Performance. Section 5.2, Summarizing Large Datasets, Grouping, Counting, and Summing. Section 5.3, Analyzing Month-over-Month and Year-over-Year Growth. Section 5.4, Enhancing Interactivity with Slicers and Timelines. Section 5.5, Introduction to Calculated Fields and Items. It is Friday morning. You have survived 4 intense days of data cleaning, logic building, and visual formatting. The fatigue is likely setting in, but the energy in the room usually spikes right about now. Why? Because today is the payoff. Everything we have done so far, scrubbing text, mastering VLOOKUP, understanding conditionals, was preparation for this moment. If formulas are the precision tools of a surgeon, pivot tables are the heavy machinery of construction. They allow you to move mountains of data with a single click. In my experience working with financial analysts, the ability to effectively use a pivot table is often the dividing line between leaving work at 5 p.m. and staying until midnight. Today, we stop writing formulas for every single question your manager asks. Instead, we are going to build flexible, dynamic summaries that answer questions before they are even asked. 5.1 Structuring Source Data for Optimal Pivot Table Performance. Before we click that Insert Pivot Tables button, we need to have a serious conversation about your source data. I have seen countless analysts struggle with pivot tables not because they didn't understand the tool, but because their data was structured for humans, not machines. A pivot table is a strict engine. It requires high-octane, standardized fuel. If your source data has blank rows, merged cells, or subtotals hard-coded into the rows, the engine will stall. We need to apply the hygiene principles we learned on day 2 to create a tabular data set. Your data must be flat. This means every column represents a variable, like date, product, region, or revenue, and every row represents a single transaction. If you have a report where the months, Jan, February, Mar, are spread across columns, a pivot table cannot analyze time effectively. You must unpivot that data first. Figure, extra detailed AI-ready prompt for AI-generated diagram showing a split comparison. On the left, a bad data source sheet with merged headers, blank divider rows, and subtotal rows highlighted in red. On the right, a good data source showing a clean, continuous tabular list with distinct headers and no formatting gaps. Connect the two with an arrow labeled normalization. Remember, a pivot table creates the summary for you. If you try to feed it data that is already summarized, you lose the ability to drill down. Give Excel the raw details, and let the pivot table handle the heavy lifting. 5.2 Summarizing Large Datasets, Grouping, Counting, and Summing. Now that our data is pristine, we load it. In our live sessions, this is the moment jaws usually drop. We take a dataset of 500,000 sales records and, within 3 seconds, generate a report showing total sales by region. No SUMIF, no locking cells, no errors. The default behavior of a pivot table is to sum numbers and count text. However, real analysis requires more nuance. You might need the average order value, or the distinct count of customers who bought a specific product. These options are hidden inside the value field settings. One of the most powerful, yet underutilized features is grouping. If you drop a date field into your rows, modern Excel may auto-group it, but you should know how to control this manually. You can group daily transaction data into months, quarters, and years without writing a single helper column formula. // steps to group dates in a pivot table. 1. Right-click on any date in the row labels. 2. Select Group. 3. In the dialog box, highlight months, quarters, and years. 4. Click OK. This instantly creates a hierarchy. You can collapse a year to see the big picture or expand a quarter to investigate a specific month. This flexibility is impossible with standard static formulas. 5.3 Analyzing month-over-month and year-over-year growth. In the world of finance, a raw number tells you very little. Knowing that revenue was $1 million is useless without context. Was it $1 million last year? Was it $500,000 last month? Context is king, and variances are the kingdom. Most beginners try to calculate these variances outside the pivot table. They build the pivot, then write formulas in the adjacent cells, columns F, G, H, to calculate % growth. This is dangerous. If the pivot table changes size or shape, your external formulas will break or reference the wrong data. Instead, we use the show values as feature. This allows you to display the same data point in multiple ways simultaneously. You can show the revenue sum in one column and the % difference from the previous month in the very next column, all contained within the pivot table object. Figure, extra detailed AI-ready prompt for AI-generated diagram showing that value field settings. A dialog box in Excel focused on the Show Values as the tab. The drop-down menu is open, highlighting options D % difference from and % of grand total. The background shows a pivot table with comparative financial data. By using Show Values as, your variance analysis becomes dynamic. If you filter out a specific product, the growth percentages recalculate instantly based on the remaining data. This is how you build robust monthly reporting packages that don't require manual maintenance. 5-point for enhancing interactivity with slicers and timelines. It is late afternoon. We have built the logic, but now we need to think about the end user. Whether that user is a client, a CFO, or yourself 2 weeks from now, navigation matters. Standard pivot table filters are functional, but they are clunky and hidden in drop-down menus. Enter slicers and timelines. Introduced a few versions ago, these tools transformed Excel from a spreadsheet program into a dashboarding tool. A slicer is essentially a visual filter, a button floating on the sheet that you can click to filter the data. When you connect a slicer to multiple pivot tables simultaneously, you create a cohesive dashboard experience. Imagine clicking North America on a slicer and watching 3 different tables and 2 charts update in unison. That is the Analyst power we promised at the start of the week. / to connect a slicer to multiple pivot tables. 1. Click the slicer to select it. 2. Go to the Slicer tab in the ribbon. 3. Click the Report Connections. 4. Check the boxes for all pivot tables you want this slicer to control. Timelines work similarly but are designed specifically for date fields. They provide a scrollable bar where users can drag to select a specific time range, e.g., May to August. It makes historical analysis intuitive and, frankly, fun to use. 5.5 Introduction to Calculated Fields and Items. As we approach the end of day 5, we encounter a common hurdle. Sometimes, the data you need isn't in the source, and Show Values as can't calculate it. For example, you have a column for revenue and a column for units sold, but you need to report on average price per unit. You cannot simply average the price column in your source data. That is a mathematical error called an average of averages. You need to calculate some revenue, some units. This is where calculated fields come in. A calculated field allows you to write a formula that operates on the totals of the pivot table, not the individual rows. It creates a new virtual field that exists only inside the pivot cache. Figure, extra detailed AI-ready prompt for AI-generated diagram showing that insert calculated field dialog box. The formula bar reads equals revenue units. An infographic style overlay explains that this calculation happens post-aggregation, contrasting it with a standard column calculation. Use this sparingly and wisely. While powerful, it can sometimes be confusing if other users try to audit your source data and can't find the column you are reporting on. Always document your calculated fields. By mastering this, you eliminate the need to tamper with the original dataset, keeping your audit trail clean and your analysis pure. You have made it through the powerhouse tools. The heavy lifting is done. Tomorrow, we explore how to automate the repetitive parts of this process so you can focus on the insights, not the clicks. Figure Mind Map Day 5, Pivot Tables and Slicers, Route Day 5, The Analyst's powerhouse, source data hygiene tabular format, no blank rows, unpivot data, single header row summarization, drag and drop value, field settings, count versus sum, average, grouping, dates, year, EQT, yard, month. Numeric ranges analysis techniques show values as percent of total, percent difference from mom and YOY, logic, dynamic recalculation, interactivity, slices, visual filtering, report connections, timelines, date ranges, scrollable interface, calculated fields, virtual columns, formulas on totals, weighted averages, avoid average of averages, figure. Day 6, Advanced Modeling and Financial Forecasting. Section 6.1, Utilizing Goal Seek for Reverse Engineering Results. Section 6.2, Running Sensitivity Analysis with Data Tables. Section 6.3, Managing Multiple Business Cases Using Scenario Manager. Section 6.4, Essential Financial Functions, PMT, FV, and NPV. Section 6.5, Solving Resource Allocation Problems with the Solver add-in. It is Saturday morning. We have reached day 6 of our intensive week. By now, the room has a different energy. The frantic typing of Monday and the frustration of Tuesday's data cleaning are distant memories. You are faster, cleaner, and sharper. But today, we stop looking backward at what happened and start looking forward at what could happen. In the world of finance and accounting, reporting on historical data is the baseline. The real value, the reason companies pay high salaries to top-tier analysts, lies in the ability to predict the future. Today, we turn Excel into a crystal ball. We are moving into advanced modeling. This is where we answer the what-if questions. What if interest rates rise? What if our raw material costs drop by 5%? What if we shift our budget from marketing to R&D? Today, you learn to model these scenarios not by guessing, but by engineering the outcome. Section 6.1, Utilizing Goal Seek for Reverse Engineering Results. Most Excel users work in a linear fashion. They enter inputs, write formulas, and observe the result. But in the boardroom, the conversation often flows the other way. A CFO doesn't ask, if we sell 10,000 units, what is our profit? They say, we need a profit of $500,000. How many units do we need to sell? This is reverse engineering, and doing it manually by trial and error is amateurish. This is where Goal Seek becomes your best friend. It forces a formula to return a specific value by changing one of its input cells. I often describe Goal Seek as the negotiator. You tell it what you want, and it tells you the price you have to pay to get it. Figure, high-resolution close-up of a computer monitor displaying an Excel break-even analysis model. A dialog box titled Goal Seek is overlaid in the center. The set cell field points to a net profit cell highlighted in red, to value shows 500000, and by changing cell points to the unit sold cell. The background spreadsheet is clean, professional, using Arial font, with subtle blue headers. To perform a Goal Seek analysis, select the cell containing the formula you want to resolve, e.g., net profit. Navigate to Data Forecast What If Analysis Goal Seek. Set cell, the cell with your formula. To value, the hard number you need to hit. By changing cell, the input variable, e.g., unit sold or price. Note, Goal Seek only works with values, not formulas, in the by changing cell field. If your logic is circular or broken, Goal Seek will run indefinitely without finding a solution. Section 6.2, Running Sensitivity Analysis with Data Tables. Goal Seek is powerful, but it is limited to a single variable. Real life is rarely that simple. Often, you need to understand how two variables interact simultaneously. For instance, how does the monthly loan payment change if both the interest rate and the loan term fluctuate? This is the domain of the data table, specifically the two-variable data table. This tool allows you to build a matrix of outcomes that updates dynamically. It creates a sensitivity grid that shows risk and opportunity at a glance. Many analysts shy away from data tables because the setup feels counterintuitive. The trick lies in the corner cell. To build a two-variable data table, create a grid. Put your row inputs, e.g., interest rates, across the top and column inputs, e.g., loan years, down the left. The critical step, in the empty top left corner cell of this grid, link directly to your output formula, e.g., equals B10, where B10 is your monthly payment calculation. Select the entire grid, including the corner formula and all input headers. Go to Data, What If Analysis, Data Table. Map the row input cell to the original interest rate cell in your model. Map the column input cell to the original loan term cell in your model. The syntax isn't typed manually, but Excel generates this array formula. Equals table, B2, B3. B2 equals row input, interest rate. B3 equals column input, loan term. Once generated, I highly recommend applying conditional formatting, color scales, to this grid. It instantly turns a wall of numbers into a heat map, showing safe zones in green and danger zones in red. This visual cue is invaluable during presentations. Section 6.3, Managing Multiple Business Cases Using Scenario Manager. We have all been there. You create a budget, and then the sales director wants an optimistic version. The risk manager wants a pessimistic version. You end up with 3 different Excel files: budget_final_v1.xlsx, budget_optimistic.xlsx, and budget_worstcase.xlsx. This file proliferation is a recipe for version control disaster. Scenario Manager solves this by allowing you to store multiple sets of input values within a single workbook. Think of Scenario Manager as a set of masks for your data. You can put on the best case mask, and the numbers update. You put on the worst case mask, and they update again. The underlying formulas never change, only the variables do. Figure, a split-screen composition showing an Excel interface. On the left, the Scenario Manager dialog box lists 3 scenarios: base case, recession, and boom market. On the right, a summary report generated by Excel shows a side-by-side comparison column for each scenario, highlighting changes in net income and cash flow. The lighting is bright and professional. To create a robust scenario summary, identify your key drivers, e.g., growth rate, COGS %, tax rate. Go to What If Analysis Scenario Manager add. Name the scenario, e.g., high growth. Select the changing cells, your key drivers. Enter the value specific to that scenario. Repeat for as many cases as you need. The real magic happens when you click the Summary button. Excel generates a new tab containing a pivot-style report comparing all scenarios side by side. This report is usually print-ready and perfect for executive appendices. Section 6.4 or Essential Financial Functions, PMT, FV, and NPV. Modeling isn't just about changing variables, it's about understanding the time value of money, TVM. If you are working in finance, you must be fluent in the language of discounting cash flows. We will focus on the 3 pillars of financial functions, PMT, FV, and NPV. PMT, payment. Used for calculating loan payments. The most common mistake here is the sign convention. In Excel finance functions, money leaving your pocket is negative, money entering is positive. Equals PMT, rate, NPER, PV, FV, type. Rate, interest rate per period, divide annual rate by 12 for monthly. NPER, total number of payments. PV, present value, loan amount, usually entered as positive. FV, future value. Used for investment forecasting. If we save $5,000 a month at 4% annual return, what do we have in 10 years? Equals FV, 4% at 12, 10 by 12, minus 5,000, 0. Note the negative 5,000 because it is cash outflow, investment. NPV, net present value. This is the go and no-go function for project managers. Is a project worth investing in today, given the future cash flows? NPV discounts future money back to today's dollars. A common trap with Excel's NPV function is that it assumes the first value occurs at the end of the first period. If your initial investment happens immediately, time 0, you should add it outside the NPV function. Correct way to calculate NPV with initial investment at time 0 equals initial underscore investment plus NPV rate cash underscore flow underscore range. If your NPV is positive, the project adds value. If negative, it destroys value. It is that black and white. Section 6.5, Solving Resource Allocation Problems with the Solver add-in. If GoalSeek is a scalpel, Solver is a surgical robot. GoalSeek handles one variable. Solver handles dozens, while simultaneously adhering to specific constraints. Imagine you are a logistics manager. You have 3 factories, 5 warehouses, limited truck capacity, different shipping costs per route, and a requirement to meet minimum demand at every warehouse. You want to minimize total cost. This is a linear programming problem, and Solver is built to crush it. Solver is an add-in, meaning it is not on the ribbon by default. You must enable it via File Options add-ins. Figure, detailed diagram of the Solver parameters window in Excel. It shows the set objective field set to a total cost cell, minute, by changing variable cells pointing to a range of shipment quantities, and a box labeled subject to the constraints listing several inequalities, e.g., $C$5 less than or equal to 100. Arrows flow from the dialog box to a complex logistics grid on the spreadsheet background. To set up a Solver model. Objective, the cell you want to maximize, profit, or minimize, cost. Variable cells, the cells Excel is allowed to change, e.g., how much to ship from factory A to warehouse B. Constraints, the rules of reality. Inventory constraint, you cannot ship more than you produced. Demand constraint, you must ship at least what the customer ordered. Integer constraint, you cannot ship 1.5 trucks, it must be an integer. When you click Solve, Excel runs an iterative algorithm. It tries thousands of combinations in seconds, eventually freezing the screen on the mathematically optimal solution. Seeing Solver optimize a complex supply chain model is usually the moment in this training week when jaws drop. We have now equipped you with the tools to forecast, stress test, and optimize. You are no longer just recording the past, you are helping your organization navigate the future. Rest up tonight. Tomorrow is our final day, and we will focus on automation and macros to ensure you never have to repeat these steps manually again. Figure Mind Map Day 6, Advanced Modeling and Forecasting, Root, plus Goal Seek, Reverse Engineering, plus Single Variable Input plus Target Value, Hard-Coded, plus Back-Solving Formulas plus Data Tables, Sensitivity, plus 2 Variable Analysis plus the Corner Cell Link plus Visualizing Risk, Heat Maps, plus Scenario Manager plus Multiple Cases, Base, Best, Worst, plus Changing Global Variables plus Summary Reports plus Financial Functions plus Time Value of Money plus PMT, Loans e-Cash Flow, plus FV, Investment Growth, plus NPV. Project Valuation Decision, plus Solver Add-in plus Optimization, Max a Minute, plus Multiple Variables plus Handling Constraints, Limits Integers. Day 7, Automation, Dashboards, and the Capstone Project. Section 7.1, Designing the Layout for an Executive Dashboard. Section 7.2, Introduction to Macros, Automating Repetitive Daily Tasks. Section 7.3, Connecting Multiple Pivot Tables to a Central Control Panel. Section 7.4, Protection and Security, Locking Cells and Hiding Formulas. Section 7.5, Capstone Challenge, Building a Complete Financial Report from Scratch. It is Sunday morning. The training room is quiet, but the atmosphere is heavy with anticipation. We have spent 6 10-hour days together, transforming the way you interact with data. You have moved from keyboard shortcuts to advanced financial modeling, building a toolkit that places you in the top tier of Excel users. But today, we face the final hurdle. In the real world, a model that works perfectly on your laptop is useless if your manager breaks it within 5 minutes of opening it. Furthermore, if you have to manually update that model every Monday morning, you haven't mastered Excel, you have just created a part-time job for yourself. Today is about sustainability and presentation. We are going to take everything you have learned and package it into an automated, bulletproof executive dashboard. By 7 p.m., you won't just have a spreadsheet, you will have a standalone application that does the work for you. Let's finish strong. Section 7.1, Designing the layout for an executive dashboard. An executive dashboard is not just a collection of charts pasted onto a sheet. It is a user interface. When a CFO opens your file, they should know exactly what the health of the business is within 5 seconds. If they have to scroll, zoom, or decipher a legend, the dashboard has failed. We begin by treating the spreadsheet like a blank canvas. The first rule of dashboard design is to eliminate the click cell look. We remove grid lines, headers, and row numbers. We are building a cockpit, not a calculator. Figure, detailed AI-ready prompt for AI-generated diagram showing a wireframe layout of a financial dashboard. The image should feature a grid system divided into 3 zones, a top key performance indicator banner with large bold numbers, a middle trend analysis section with wide line charts, and a bottom detail section with tables. The style should be clean, minimalist, blueprint-style white lines on a dark blue background, emphasizing spacing and alignment. The layout must follow the logic of the human eye. We place the most critical numbers, revenue, net income, cash on hand, at the top left. This is prime real estate. As we move down and to the right, the data becomes more granular. Structure your dashboard using a strict grid system. I recommend setting all column widths to 2 or 3 and building your tiles by merging or centering a cross selection. This gives you the flexibility to resize elements without distorting the charts below them. Do not use bright red or green for everything. In professional financial reporting, color should be used sparingly to indicate action, not decoration. A neutral palette with 1 highlight color commands respect, a rainbow palette suggests confusion. Section 7.2, Introduction to Macros, Automating Repetitive Daily Tasks. Let's talk about the Monday morning blues. Every analyst has that one report they have to generate every week. You export the data, delete the top 3 rows, bold the headers, format the currency column, and freeze the panes. It takes 20 minutes. Over a year, that is 16 hours of your life wasted on formatting. Today, we get those hours back using macros. A macro is simply a recording of your actions that Excel can play back at lightning speed. Many people fear macros because they think they need to learn to write code. You don't. We will use the macro recorder. It watches what you do and writes the Visual Basic for Applications (VBA) code for you in the background. Exercise, the one-click formatting macro. Enable the Developer tab in your ribbon, File Options, Customize ribbon. Click Record macro and name it Format_Report. Perform your standard cleanup, delete the raw header rows, apply your corporate font, and set number formats. Click Stop Recording. Now, view the code by pressing Alt plus F11. You will see something like this. Subformat_report. Removes the first 3 rows of raw export data. Rows, 1:3, select. Selection, delete Shift = Excel up. Sets the header row to bold and blue. Range, A1 Z1, select. Selection font bold = true. With selection, interior. Theme color = Excel theme color accent 1. Tint and shade = 0.8. End with. End sub. This code is now your robotic assistant. Assign this macro to a button on your dashboard. Next time you get raw data, you click the button, and the work is done in a fraction of a second. Section 7.3, Connecting multiple pivot tables to a central control panel. In day 5, we mastered the pivot table. But a single pivot table rarely tells the whole story. Usually, you have one table for regional sales, another for product mix, and a third for monthly trends. The problem arises when you want to filter all of them by Q1. Clicking the filter on 3 separate tables is clumsy. We need a central control panel. We achieve this using slicers and report connections. A slicer is a visual button that filters a pivot table. But the secret power of the slicer is that it can be hooked up to multiple tables simultaneously. This allows you to create an interactive report where one click updates every chart on your screen. Figure, detailed AI-ready prompt for AI-generated diagram showing a data flow visualization. In the center, a stylized slicer menu labeled region, north, south, east, west acts as the hub. Arrows flow outward from this single menu to 3 different dashboard elements, a pie chart, a bar graph, and a data table. The visual should imply connectivity and synchronization, using glowing lines to represent data transmission. Steps to connect. Create your slicers for the first pivot table, e.g., year, region, product. Click on a slicer and go to the Slicer tab on the ribbon. Select Report Connections. Check the boxes for every pivot table and chart you want this slicer to control. Now, when you click North on your dashboard, the sales chart updates, the expense table recalculates, and the employee headcount adjusts. You have created a dynamic financial model that allows executives to answer their own questions without calling you. Section 7.4, Protection and Security, Locking Cells and Hiding Formulas. We have built a powerful engine. Now we must put a hood on it. I have seen months of work destroyed because a well-meaning manager typed 1000 into a cell that contained a complex XLOOKUP formula, breaking the entire calculation chain. Excel security works on a counterintuitive principle. By default, every cell is locked, but the lock doesn't work until you protect the sheet. To secure your dashboard, we must reverse this logic. The protection workflow. Select the cells that the user is allowed to change, e.g., input cells for assumptions or drop-down lists. Press Ctrl+1, go to the Protection tab, and uncheck Locked. Go to the Review tab and click Protect Sheet. You should also hide your logic. In the same Protection tab, there is a hidden checkbox. If you check this, the formula bar will appear empty when a user clicks the cell, even though the formula is still working. This prevents formula theft and keeps the interface clean. Your users should focus on the insights, not the syntax of your nested if statements. Section 7.5, Capstone Challenge, Building a Complete Financial Report from Scratch. It is 2 p.m. We have reached the summit. For the next 4 hours, you will work on the Capstone project. This is a comprehensive simulation of a real-world task you would face as a senior financial analyst. I am sending a file to your laptops now named global_sales_or_export.csv. It contains 50,000 rows of messy, unformatted sales data spanning 3 years. Your mission? Clean, use Power Query or text functions, Day 2, to normalize the dates and clean the customer names. Model, build a VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP bridge, Day 3, to pull in product costs from a separate master price list and table. Analyze, calculate gross margin and net profit by region using pivot tables, Day 5. Visualize, create a one-page executive dashboard, Day 7. It must feature a dynamic chart showing year-over-year growth and a top 10 products list. Automate, record a macro that resets the slicers to the current month. Protect, lock everything except the slicers. Figure, detailed AI-ready prompt for AI-generated diagram showing a before and after split composition. On the left, a chaotic spreadsheet with jagged columns, error codes like #NA, and unformatted text. On the right, a sleek, dark mode professional dashboard with glowing green trend lines, polished gauge charts, and clean typography. The transition between the two should look like a digital transformation process. Work in teams of 2, or go solo if you prefer. I will be walking around to assist, but try to rely on your notes and your logic. Remember what we discussed on Day 4 about storytelling, do not just show me numbers. Tell me if the company is winning or losing. Closing thoughts. It is 7 p.m. The sun has set on our week. Look at the dashboard on your screen. Compare it to what you were capable of doing last Monday morning. The gap between those two skill sets is what we call career leverage. You are now bringing expert-level skills to the marketplace. You can clean data faster, analyze it deeper, and present it clearer than 90% of your peers. But remember, Excel is a perishable skill. If you don't use it, you lose it. Take the dashboard you built today. Save it as a template. Use it on Monday. Be the person who brings clarity to the chaos. Thank you for your hard work, your patience, and your curiosity. Class dismissed. Figure Mind Map Day 7 Overview, Automation and Capstone, Executive Dashboard, Layout, Grid System, 5-second Rule, Prime Real Estate, Visuals, Remove Grid Lines, Minimal Color, White Space, Macros and Automation, Macro Recorder, No Code Required, Automate Formatting, VBA Basics, Developer Tab, Assign to Buttons, Control Panel, Slicers, Visual Filtering, Report Connections, One Slicer Dash, Many Charts, Interactive Modeling, Security, Protection, Unlock Input Cells, Protect Sheet, Hiding, Hide Formulas, Prevent Errors, Capstone Project, Workflow, Clean Data, Power Query, Connect Logic, Lookups, Analyze, Pivot Tables, Visualize, Dashboard. Conclusion, Beyond the Bootcamp. Section C. Section 8.1, Integrating New Skills into Your Daily Workflow. Section 8.2, Troubleshooting Resources and Community Support. Section 8.3, A Roadmap for Continued Learning, Power BI and VBA. Section 8.4, Final Words of Encouragement for the Modern Analyst. It is Sunday evening. The laptops are closing, the projector is cooling down, and the intensity of the last 7 days is beginning to settle. You have just completed roughly 70 hours of rigorous, expert-level training. You have gone from basic data entry to building dynamic dashboards and financial models that can predict business outcomes. However, the true test of this training does not happen in this classroom. It happens tomorrow morning, at 9 a.m., when you sit at your desk or walk into your next interview. The comfortable safety net of having an instructor looking over your shoulder is gone. This conclusion is not just a summary, it is your survival guide for the transition. The skills you have acquired, logic functions, pivot tables, modeling, and automation, are perishable if not used immediately. We need to bridge the gap between the perfect data of our classroom exercises and the messy, chaotic reality of the corporate world. You are no longer just a user of Excel, you are an architect of data. This chapter outlines how to maintain that standard, how to solve problems when the formulas break, and where to look when you are ready to climb even higher. 8.1 Integrating New Skills into Your Daily Workflow. The biggest mistake I see graduates make is trying to overhaul their entire department's reporting structure on their first day back. This usually leads to frustration and burnout. Instead, treat your return to work like a strategic implementation. Start by identifying the low-hanging fruit. Look for the one weekly report that causes you the most pain, the one where you spend 2 hours copy-pasting data or manually formatting cells. This is your pilot project. Apply the automation techniques and lookup functions we practiced on day 3 and day 7 to this single task. Figure, photorealistic close-up of a modern office desk, warm lighting. Focus on a hand highlighting a specific row on a printed spreadsheet, with a laptop screen in the background showing a clean, green task complete progress bar. Represents identifying the single most inefficient task to optimize first. By fixing one specific workflow, you create an immediate victory. You save yourself 2 hours a week, every week. This builds confidence and demonstrates tangible ROI to your managers without overwhelming your daily schedule. Resist the urge to revert to old habits when you are under pressure. When a deadline is tight, it is tempting to manually sum a column rather than writing a robust SUMIFS formula. Fight that urge. The extra 10 minutes you spend writing the formula today will save you 10 hours over the next year. The 15-minute audit rule: before sending any file out, spend 15 minutes auditing it. Use the trace precedents and evaluate formula tools we covered. Ensure your formatting guides the eye, as discussed in Day 4's visual storytelling section. Quality control is what separates an amateur from a professional analyst. 8.2 Troubleshooting resources and community support. In the real world, you will encounter errors. You will see #ref, #value, and #NA. You will encounter data structures so bizarre they seem designed to break your logic. This is not a sign of failure, it is the nature of data analysis. The mark of an expert is not knowing every formula by heart, but knowing how to find the solution rapidly. Your first line of defense is the built-in logic you learned here. Use IFERA to handle predictable issues, but for the unpredictable ones, you must become an expert researcher. When searching for solutions online, syntax matters. Searching for Excel error is useless. Searching for Excel VLOOKUP return closest match logic yields results. Learn to speak the language of the tool when asking for help. Figure a clean, minimalist infographic showing the troubleshooting loop. Steps include 1. Isolate the cell. 2. Evaluate formula, step in. 3. Check data types. 4. Consult resources. 5. Implement fix. Vector style, professional blue and gray color palette. Recommended community hubs, Mr. Excel message board, one of the oldest and most knowledgeable communities. Great for specific VBA questions. Stack Overflow, essential for when you start writing more complex scripts or need help with Power Query logic. Reddit, Excel, a surprisingly active and supportive community where you can often get answers within minutes. Remember, you also have the support of our training organization. As mentioned in our opening session, our relationship does not end today. You have access to our post-training support for specific queries regarding the exercises we covered. 8.3a Roadmap for continued learning, Power BI and VBA. You now possess a top 5% skill set in Excel. You can handle 99% of the data tasks required in finance and accounting. However, as you advance in your career, you will eventually hit the Excel ceiling. This happens when your datasets exceed 1 million rows or your logic becomes too slow to calculate in real time. Visual Basic for Applications, VBA. We touched on macros in Day 7. VBA is the language that lives behind Excel. Learning VBA allows you to create user forms, automate file management, like emailing reports automatically, and build custom functions. It is the next logical step for those who love the logic and automation aspect of our training. Power BI, Business Intelligence. If you enjoyed the pivot tables and dashboards from Day 5, Power BI is your future. It is essentially a super pivot table engine that can ingest data from the web, SQL databases, and Excel simultaneously. It handles millions of rows effortlessly and creates visualizations that are interactive and web-based. Python for data analysis. For those interested in hardcore data science or predictive modeling beyond Day 6 forecasting tools, Python is the industry standard. It integrates well with modern Excel and allows for heavy statistical lifting. Figure a 3D isometric illustration of a skill pyramid. The broad base is labeled Core Excel Skills, Logic, Formatting. The middle tier is Advanced Analysis, Modeling, Pivot Tables. The split peak shows Automation, VBA, Python, on one side and Business Intelligence, Power BI, on the other. Soft, glowing lighting. Do not rush into these immediately. Spend the next 6 months mastering what we have covered this week. Build your muscle memory. Once you feel that Excel is slowing you down, that is the signal to expand your toolkit. 8 point for final words of encouragement for the modern analyst. As we conclude this 1-week intensive training, I want you to reflect on the difference between Monday's confusion and Sunday's clarity. You have proven that you have the discipline to sit through 10-hour days and the intellect to grasp complex financial concepts. In the modern workplace, the person who controls the data controls the narrative. By mastering these tools, you have given yourself a voice. You can now quantify arguments, visualize trends, and provide the evidence that decision-makers need. Do not be afraid to be the Excel expert in the room. When a colleague struggles with a spreadsheet, help them. When a manager asks if a process can be improved, step up. Teaching others is the best way to reinforce your own learning. You have the recordings, you have the exercise files, and most importantly, you have the mindset. The bootcamp is over, but your career as a high-level analyst is just beginning. Pack up your laptops. Go get some rest. You have a big week ahead of you. Good luck. Figure mind map, beyond the bootcamp, action plan, route, beyond the bootcamp, node, integration strategy, node, the 15-minute audit, node, low-hanging fruit, node, don't rebuild everything, node, troubleshooting, node, evaluate formula tool, node, search syntax, node, community forums, node, next steps, node, master current skills, 6 months, node, VBA, automation focus, node, Power BI, visual focus, node, mindset, node, be the expert, node, data equals narrative. Node, continuous practice.